Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 Plus. I'm Tim Pham. This is your KREM 2 News Recap, where we take a closer look at some of the biggest stories in the Inland Northwest this past week.
This is a copy of the resolution signed by the Board of Commissioners to authorize the filing of a lawsuit for the abatement of nuisance. To abate something means to remove a nuisance, and a nuisance is exactly what the Board of Commissioners has deemed this growing camp off of I-90 in Freya. The resolution also authorizes injunctive relief against the Washington Department of Transportation to prevent future growth of the camp. All of this as the Board of Commissioners says it's ready to step up and pursue clearing out the camp.
We're going to be the voice for the folks that are being victimized by the existence of this camp.
County Commissioner Josh Kearns says this resolution is in direct support of Sheriff Ozzie Knezevich, who has a goal to break down the camp by mid-November.
He has the same goal, and it's to help this community get folks out of Camp Hope, out of homelessness, and abate the nuisance that has been created on this property.
In terms of establishing a set of expectations and a timeline, city spokesperson Brian Coddington says the city is aligned with the county. While the end goal is the same, the process of getting there is separate between the county and the city.
We issued a pre-nuisance letter a month ago to the state outlining some of the very similar terms and conditions, and that's where we're at now with the conversation with the state.
Kearns says the county's signed resolution authorizes a formal lawsuit to make the state responsible for the camp growing on washed-out land.
Folks at the state have tried to say that local government is more concerned about optics than action. This is action. This is leadership that we're taking. We're coming in, we're going to fix a problem that, quite frankly, the state has let get completely out of hand.
Commissioner Josh Kearns says the board moved to sign the resolution unanimously. Kearns says the level of violence, crime, and unlawful activity around the camp is what drives him to take action. With this lawsuit, the county and community stakeholders could soon come together in front of a judge to determine the next steps for the camp. We also reached out to the nonprofit providing services to the camp, Jules Helping Hands. Executive Director Julie Garcia says she hopes the county does more to address the homeless crisis instead of leaning on city services.
Reports of multiple shots fired.
Spokane police racing to the homeless camp near I-90 in Freya just after 3 this morning after a man fired several shots from his car.
Heading around looking for this car. We need to get at least 2 or 3 people into the camp, or at least on the outskirts of the camp, to start looking for some victims.
Heather Morris is part of the camp's security team and spoke to the suspect moments before the shooting.
The gentleman in the car pulled over and he asked me if I'd seen a younger girl or woman. He was telling me that she had stolen something from him.
According to court documents, 24-year-old James Ratcliffe said he was looking for a woman he had just given a ride to. He claimed she stole his pistol. Unable to find her at the camp, police say he opened fire and sped off. Heather was able to get a license plate, which led police to an apartment complex on the South Hill, near Regal and Southeast Boulevard, where they found the car. Our cameras were there as they took Ratcliffe into custody.
All right, sir, you James Ratcliffe?
Yes, sir.
Ratcliffe appeared in court this afternoon charged with 2 counts of drive-by shooting. Camp manager Maurice Smith believes the newly installed fence actually kept the homeless safe by keeping Ratcliffe out.
If the fence had not been here, he could have parked his car and come into the camp, which he couldn't do this time.
Police say they found several weapons inside Ratcliffe's apartment and a shell casing near the car's windshield wiper. Ratcliffe has no prior criminal history. However, today we learned that he's actually had a warrant out for his arrest, a misdemeanor warrant, since 2016 for failure to appear. The court set his bond at $5,000. In Spokane, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
The Lincoln County Sheriff's Office says that they will make arrangements with the U.S. Marshals to pick up Charles Bregman within the next 10 days. The 54-year-old is currently in Pennsylvania, where he was arrested. Charles and Teresa were reported missing back on September 20th. They were both last seen when Charles picked up Teresa from the Spokane airport. Court documents say that Teresa was in New York visiting an old boyfriend. The couple's daughter told law enforcement that Teresa had asked for a separation after 36 years of marriage. Law enforcement tracked the couple's cell phones to a remote area in Lincoln County, and a few days later, a farmer found her body. Charles managed to escape authorities for almost a week until he was arrested in Pennsylvania. Once he arrives back in Lincoln County, Bregman will face murder charges there.
Now, according to court documents, a 51-year-old woman was out walking her dog around 1 in the morning last Monday when 18-year-old Ethan Jake asked if she would buy him cigarettes. She refused and says Jake continued to follow her near 1st and Division, then hit her in the face, tackled her to the ground, and raped her. Court documents show the victim bit the suspect's finger and was able to run away. Staff at her apartment building called police. Officers began collecting evidence, including a condom wrapper and security footage. Now, Ethan Jake was arrested on Saturday. He's charged with second-degree rape. Police say this was a random attack, which is rare.
The most recent construction project is at Division and Sprague. Emergency repairs here have closed the right 2 lanes of northbound Division from 2nd Avenue to Sprague. Crews are expected to be done in the next 10 days. Then there's the Riverside Avenue construction, where several blocks are closed. From Division to Wall Street, Riverside is getting reduced to 3 lanes, making room for a new bike lane. The city of Spokane says that construction is expected to wrap up there in November. And believe it or not, construction on Thor and Freya is nearing the end. This project has sent traffic through several different detours since it started last March. But traffic flow is expected to return to normal when it's completed in the next 30 to 40 days, which could be sometime in November. Finally, there are traffic delays on the north side of the North Monroe Street Bridge. Traffic lanes there are temporarily reduced to 2. Now, the city's website says the currently estimated completion date for this project is October 17th.
Sometimes our drivers do need some encouragement to slow down.
3 new cameras have been installed at school zones on the South Hill. Sergeant Teresa Fuller works for the Spokane Police Department's traffic unit. She says the cameras have proven over the years to be a great resource.
Out of the people that pay their tickets, 90% of them never get another ticket again. So obviously the cameras are doing their jobs and doing them effectively.
Cameras in school zones are not a new concept. Several years ago, Spokane City Council voted in support of school zone speed safety cameras after a student was seriously hurt by a speeding vehicle. Back then, cameras were added throughout the city in 2015 and 2017. And now with the start of this school year, cameras have been added to Bernard Street, Regal Street, and Ray Street. This brings a total of 8 cameras located near 7 different schools.
Our school zones are fairly busy, particularly here at Adams.
Beth Nye is the principal at Adams Elementary. She says student safety needs to be a community effort. She further explains how the cameras can be utilized.
Well, I would think that a benefit could be that it might help message to our drivers that we really are taking school safety seriously and for them to do their part. And I think it also helps us have a visual if we're noticing that a particular driver is struggling, remembering the rules. With that visual reminder, we can actually identify who to have that conversation with.
Fuller says the money from the tickets go towards community projects.
The countdown timers downtown were paid for by red light funds. Several years ago, they put new sidewalks up on 5 Mile. Those were all photo enforcement funded. And I believe several of the newly lighted crosswalks at like Manitou Park and things like that were also funded through photo enforcement.
Friends and family of Robert Bradley gathered here at Riverfront Park tonight, 1 month after he was shot and killed by Spokane police officers. Bradley was a business owner, aspiring pilot, father, and fiance. She says Bradley was on his own property emptying out their van after a weekend of camping when police shot him seconds after law enforcement identified themselves in the dark alley. Police say Bradley would not follow commands and they did find a rifle near him. 2 different sides to this story, but people here tonight believe Bradley should still be alive and that the shooting was not justified.
When a life is lost too soon in such an unnecessary and avoidable way as Robert Bradley's life was, it is important to spread their memories as far as possible, and that they are carried on by more than just the people who knew and loved them.
During tonight's memorial, Bradley's son lit the first candle. That flame lit all the others here. This shooting is still being investigated. Prosecutors still looking at whether the shooting was justified or if those officers should face charges. They have been placed on administrative leave, which is standard protocol.
In the letter to U of I staff, employees were told they may continue classroom discussions about abortion, but teachers must maintain instructor neutrality. But the university doesn't define neutrality. Walk me through your thoughts on how you can really monitor neutrality in all of this. Can you?
Yeah, I don't really know how that would work in classroom discussion.
It's sort of unclear exactly does neutrality mean balance in the sense of you hear from people with different views, or does it mean that no one can have a view at all? And if that's what it means, it'll be hard, I think, for faculty to implement it because they won't really understand when something is or isn't neutral.
Even though the university hasn't yet outlined future details on enforcement, Professor Ziegler says policies limiting speech with a focus on abortions are not constitutional.
Generally, it's not constitutionally acceptable for state administrators to mandate neutrality or to chill discussion about something like abortion. There are a variety of reasons for that. Universities are generally places where the courts want to see more of a free exchange of ideas.
Professor Ziegler says the policies are a reflection of today's political climate.
It's part of a kind of broader trend in the sense that there are conservative lawmakers elsewhere in the country who are nervous about what they see as kind of the indoctrination of students, who are prescribing, how discussion can take place on a wide variety of topics related to, race, sexuality, gender, etc.
The risk with these policies, she says, is student learning.
It's from an exchange of ideas with people with whom you don't agree. Like, that's how you build empathy. It's how you open your mind to new ideas. And if you can't, because either you or your classmates or your teacher are afraid of running up against some policy, your learning experience is going to be less rich.
She believes these policies could be challenged in court. Those on campus who are personally affected would carry the most weight. But as stated in the university's letter, employees in violation of the law could lose their jobs and even be banned from future state employment, giving them a lot to lose.
I got threatened with if I was to harm any small child, a millstone would be put around my neck and I would be cast into the sea.
Kimber Glidden, the former director of the Boundary County Library, is speaking out about the harassment and threats she had to deal with and what pushed her to resign. She says back in February, a woman asked if the library carried the book Gender Queer. They didn't. The mom was outraged when Glidden told her she would help someone get the book if they wanted to read it. Another family told her they didn't want pornography or pedophilia in the library.
And I'm like, well, can you show me the materials that you're concerned about? Well, you don't have any materials.
The anger toward her continued to escalate over the next few months.
You're grooming children. There's pornography in the library. How dare you? But now people are showing up armed. Open carry state, so you gotta, carry a gun to the library and the children's department. Our library doesn't have any of the books, well, except for now, who was Frederick Douglass.
Library board meetings soon became filled with armed citizens convinced Glidden had a hidden agenda and was harming kids.
It was getting to the point where I couldn't do my job anymore.
Glidden resigned this August. 3 other employees left with her. She's not the first librarian to face threats and likely won't be the last.
They take over boards. They've taken over school boards, hospital boards, library boards. This is happening across the country.
She says communities, especially smaller ones, need to support their libraries and fight censorship.
Having access to information is not dangerous. Not having access to information or restricted access, that's what tyranny does.
And before her presentation, Glidden says she was served papers outside of the Spokane Library. Someone is bringing a tort claim against her. She also revealed that the library received a letter from its insurance company who said due to increased risk factors, they would not be renewing the policy.
The weather might be starting to turn, but the summer heat is still on the minds of the Gonzaga Center for Climate, Society, and the Environment. This summer, the center, with the help of 40 volunteers, mapped out Spokane's urban heat island effect. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, an urban heat island is when a city or urban area sees hotter temperatures than their surrounding rural neighbors, and that difference can be deadly.
2021, 20 people in Spokane died from extreme heat during the heat dome in the Northwest, and so extreme heat kills more people than other extreme weather events combined.
Now the results are in. The National Weather Service recorded a high temperature of 88 degrees at the Spokane airport that day, but the study found even hotter temperatures.
One of the most exciting and interesting findings is that on a hot day, one neighborhood could be experiencing 14 degrees higher temperatures than another. That's a really big difference.
Other hot spots included downtown and the East Central neighborhood, but even neighborhoods close to each other felt the difference. For example, during the 3 to 4 p.m. hour on July 16th, the neighborhood around Manitou Park registered at about 85.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Meanwhile, a few short miles away here in the West Central neighborhood, the temperature registered at 93.8 degrees Fahrenheit, making that a difference of 8.6 degrees. But could Spokane's recent growth also play a factor? At the moment, Honebine says there's no way to know for sure unless they do a study over time as the city continues to grow.
It's important to think about how we're going to find places for them to live. Are we going to be building more streets and more buildings and potentially contributing to that effect? Or are we going to try and plan in a way that lessens the impacts of extreme heat for neighborhoods?
So what happens now that we've got the results? Currently, the Climate Center is conducting a community survey. After that, they hope to work with community partners, the Spokane City Council, and other groups to figure out an action plan so we're ready for the next time temperatures get too hot.
Gas prices across the inland Northwest remain high, and it seems sometimes like there is no relief in sight. So let's take a look at some of those numbers right now to see what gas prices look like across the inland Northwest. Now, these are all according to Gas Buddy. Right now in Spokane, the average price for a gallon of unleaded gas is at $4.74 a gallon. That's up 20 cents in the last week, with an average of $4 again and 74 cents, down or up from $4.54. Now that's actually up 31 cents from last month and more than $1 from a year ago. Now prices across Washington are up even more. Gas prices statewide are up 46 cents per gallon, now sitting at over $5 per gallon. And that's quite an increase. But now there is some good news for drivers in Idaho. Prices there have actually stayed the same over the last 7 days, with the average price per gallon still sitting at $4.38 per gallon. Now, after looking at these numbers, I decided to go reach out to the experts, and specifically Patrick DeHaan with Gas Buddy. Here's what he had to say.
These two different states are served by different refineries, and that's really the critical differentiator on why part of the state or part of Idaho is lower, whereas Washington is going up because because refinery issues exist in the West Coast. One refinery in Northwest Washington shut down for another about 20 days doing planned maintenance, and refineries in Southern California have encountered several issues causing them to be temporarily shut down as well. And that is why we're seeing prices in Spokane up about 14 cents a gallon in the last week, whereas in Idaho, you're basically not seeing any increase because the refineries that serve Idaho and the Rocky Mountains are not having the issues that you're seeing from refineries in Western Washington.
Now, DeHaan says that these refineries should be back up and running in the next couple of weeks, and that should bring down prices in our area. DeHaan also says that he's hopeful that we'll see prices below $4 a gallon.
Gasoline supply in the West Coast is now at its lowest level in some 10 years. It's going to take a lot of time to get those inventories back up to normal levels, but it's not impossible at some point, either late this year or into January or February, that we could see prices back below that $4 a gallon.
Now, if you would like to see a map of where to find the cheapest gas in Spokane, text the word gas to our number 509-448-2000, and we'll send you a link right to your phone.
So Spokane Transit's launching a new Connect fare system, and the way it works is you either can get a physical card and pay with this smart card when you get on the bus, or you can download the Spokane Transit Connect app and pay through an e-card on that. So the way the app works is you download the app, you create an account, and that allows you to kind of re-up your balance on your e-card, or you can load up a physical Connect card at the plaza. Then when you get on the bus, you just have to scan the card or your phone on the machine at the front. Along with this new system, STA also announced new reduced bus fares. Anyone 18 and younger can now ride the bus for free. 5 and under can ride for free with no pass. Anyone 6 to 18 just has to apply for a reduced fare pass, but once they have that, they can also ride for free. Now here's a look at some of the other fare updates. Fare capping will be easier to keep track of now. That means if you spend $4 in one day, you get unlimited rides for the rest of the day. And if you spend $60 in one calendar month, you get unlimited rides for the rest of that month. Anyone 60 and older can apply for 50% reduced fares. Active duty military and veterans can also ride for half off, and students can ride for a 20% discount. If you're interested in applying for one of those reduced fares, you can text the word BUS to 509-448-2000. We'll send you a link for where you can send in your application. All you need is an ID, a picture of the person applying, and then proof that you fit into one of the categories I mentioned.
It's one of the projects we've been watching since the end of March when it started, and depending on your commute,
it might be one of the projects you're tracking as well. Today, South Hill drivers and people who use the sidewalk are navigating a new traffic change. A part of Hartson is closed off, and drivers are now being encouraged to use 8th Avenue as a way to get up and down the hill.
City Communications Manager Kirsten Davis says she knows drivers, business owners, and homeowners are feeling the pain of construction. She says the city is just as excited to see the end of the Thor-Freya project.
We understand everyone's, anxiousness to get it finished, and we're anxious too.
Davis says doing construction on Thor and Freya gives the city an opportunity to review underground systems.
Every time we are going to do some above ground work, we want to get underneath and repair anything that's underneath.
Starting Monday, crews are checking water and sewer systems around Freya and Hartson.
It's infrastructure that's been underground for decades.
As a detour, road signs encourage local commuters to use 8th Avenue. One person says navigating ongoing construction has been difficult for her on her scooter.
There are 3 ways over to Thor, but I cannot use them because the sidewalks and streets are torn up. So now I go up Freya to 8th Street and then cross over. And there have been times that I've had to drive my scooter in traffic on Thor to get across the street to get to the curb cuts.
Cormeyer says the construction has made her commute to the bus stop 15 minutes longer. And in those 15 minutes, she has more potential to come across more cars.
There have been a couple close calls where I could have touched the cars easily.
Cormeyer says living near the construction site, she watches drivers disregard traffic signs.
They have a sign up here, road closed. Cars are still coming around down here, and they're ending up turning around. They need to follow what the sign says.
Davis says commuters should continue to pay attention to new traffic changes, and homeowners echo the same message.
Safety first when you're dealing with road construction.
Despite a few delays, the city does expect the project to be completed before the end of this year's construction season. Kirsten Davis says drivers and people who use the sidewalk can expect the project to wrap in 30 to 45 days.
Sometimes it takes a good boy to catch a bad guy.
It's truly been remarkable to watch him work over the last 7 years and have the ability to be as fierce as he's been and then be able to go out and do public demos with 2nd grade kids and let them climb all over him.
We met K9 Zeus and his handler, Officer Todd Bielitz, right before their final patrol shift together, marking the end of an impressive career.
Yes, I'm his chauffeur and I drive him around, but he belongs to the city of Spokane. He belongs to the taxpayers of Spokane. This is their dog.
Since 2015, Zeus has helped keep citizens and officers safe.
These dogs absorb a vast majority of the threat for us on these calls when we use them. We don't ever want to put our dogs in a situation to where they're going to get injured, but it's absolutely a real possibility when they do it.
He's been deployed more than 1,500 times and helped capture nearly 400 suspects.
He was chasing a guy that ran and closed a gate on a 4-foot chain link fence. And instead of jumping the fence like I anticipated him doing, he lowered his head and rammed his head through the gate and broke the latch on the gate and continued to pursue the guy and caught him around the side of the garage.
At almost 10 years old, Zeus isn't the young pup he used to be. Officer Bielitz knows it's time for his 4-legged partner to retire.
It's going to be a huge transition for both of us. It's really hard not to get attached to them because we spend more time with these dogs than we do with our own wife and kids.
Zeus will soon have a lot more free time.
He enjoys the lake. He enjoys his black lab sister at home. So they wrestle and play.
But he'll still be part of Officer Bielitz's family.
Somehow, some way, I've been extremely fortunate where I've gotten all of that in this dog.
It is such a big deal, and we're so grateful to have Mountain West Bank here. I'm Brenda Johnson. I'm the president of the Wallace Chamber of Commerce and owner of Johnson's Gyms in Wallace. We did not have a bank for several months, and it's tough. People have to drive all the way, 20 miles, 30 miles to go to the bank. It's a lot for some folks here.
I'm Scott Anderson, President and Chief Executive Officer at Mountain West Bank. With the departure of some other financial institutions leaving the Silver Valley here, it left the county seat of Shoshone County and really the heart of the Silver Valley without a bank for the first time in well over 100 years. Having us be able to be here in this great building and this wonderful community has been it's been a blast. It's been one of our most fun expansion projects and probably one of the smoothest.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114,
My name is Rick Schaefer. I'm Director of Operations of the Wallace Inn in Wallace, Idaho, as well as a self-appointed Prime Minister of the historic Wallace, Idaho. The significance of having Mountain West come into Wallace is huge. The building itself, which is a classic in architecture, was built in 1917. The bank has been here since 1888 itself as a bank facility. Back in the days when it was the first national bank, and then other banks ever since then. Wallace, Idaho is a thriving community, and we need a thriving bank, a financial institution, to support that. It was just a few short decades ago, things weren't very good in Wallace. I've been here for 30 plus years, and things were not very good back in the 90s, but a lot of people working together. We may do it in different directions, but we all work for the same goal, making it a better place to live.
The next time you walk into your favorite bar or restaurant in the Spokane area, you might see one of these signs.
They're also able to look at the QR code, scan it.
From there, you'll be directed to resources to fight domestic violence, as well as a list of area businesses participating in Purple for a Purpose. Annie Murphy is one of the event organizers. She says it's meant to be a discreet way to help victims.
People need to know where the resources are. People often don't know where to go. So this gives a really easy, accessible way for people to get resources.
I think it's a really great concept.
Bruncheonette is one of 100 businesses participating in this year's campaign.
It's a big thing. It's something that I think more people should be advocating for, just because when you're in that situation, you may not feel like you have support or you feel alone. So I think letting people in our community know that there's people that are caring about them or thinking about them, and we're one of the restaurants that want to support that good cause.
This is the second year for the prevention campaign. Last year, the goal was to provide education and awareness. This year, they've moved more towards awareness and fundraising.
So we've had consistently high rates of domestic violence and child abuse for many, many years. Domestic violence still has a lot of stigma around it. We're afraid to talk about it. And so through things like this, partnering with, the business sector, the restaurants, local restaurants, we really want to get the message out. This is everyone's issue. It's affecting someone that you know. 1 in 3 women, 1 in 10 men here in Spokane will be victims of domestic violence.
Let's go, guys!
A pitch, a hit, and runners running to home are some of the things you might see on Tuesday mornings at Franklin Park. They like to call themselves a league of their own.
Here we go!
David Smith and 2 of his friends started the 65-year-old and older league 5 years ago.
We just have a lot of fun. We mix up teams halfway through. We start a new season. And so we get to play with people, we get to play against people, and we get to know each other. And it's a wonderful league.
Some of the players in the league have also gone on to play in national championships. They recently returned from a tournament in Las Vegas where they beat almost everyone they played.
Fortunately, we finished in second place, did really well, and represented the city, played other teams from all throughout the country, and that's more competitive.
One of the players' favorite rules is that teams are created through a draft to keep teams even. Mark Riley has played in Spokane for more than 50 years.
It's just as much fun to win here as it is to go to a tournament and win. And some of the players that have not played in several years are coming out and playing, so it's fun to see them progress.
The league has a younger requirement for women. They can be as young as 50 years old.
This is my first year playing in this league. I haven't played for many years. It has been so wonderful because what I love about softball is the people you meet and the heart and all that. The game is just a reason to get together, but I just love meeting people.
The league takes a break as the weather gets colder, but they start back up again in April and play through October. So this is the last week of the season, but many players I talked to are already excited to come back and play next April. But before I leave, I couldn't do it without a swing. Come on, Joe.
Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus for a look at some of the biggest news stories of the past week in Spokane and the rest of the Inland Northwest. For the most up-to-date news throughout the weekend, you can watch our very latest newscast right here on KREM 2 Plus. Just look for them in the bottom navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.